This video will show how to use simple spellout rules in the synthesizing grammar. And I've started a new language project here. We're at nouns 1.1. And if we look here, we see that the target tense and form is past. So let's write a simple spellout rule that will add the suffix ed for past tense. So that'll be a spellout rule for verbs. First we need to enter a group. I'm going to call it just XYZ. You should use descriptive names for your groups. Now let's enter a rule in there. So this will show how to use a simple spellout rule. Add the suffix ed to past tense verbs. So it's simple because it adds just one morpheme. This will be a suffix. We want it to apply to all verbs that are past tense. The suffix will be ed. Suffix's tag will be, we'll just call it tense. The gloss is more specific, we'll call it past tense. And now if we generate this verse, a person walked. Well, person walked. And we can say, show morphemes. And there's our morpheme. And if we rest our cursor there, we see walk changed to walked by the rule that we just wrote. Let's change this from a suffix to a prefix. Let's copy that. And now, when we generate, now it's a prefix. We can change it to an infix, just like over in the lexicon. If we put a positive number here, for example, +1, that means insert it after the first character of the word. If we put a negative number, for example, -1, that means put it right before the last character of the word. Let's put it right after the first character of the word. We'll initialize, generate again, and there's our infix right after the first character in the word. Let's write another rule. Let's add, this noun is first mention. Participant tracking is first mention. In English we say a person. So let's write another rule for nouns. Again, I'll call it XYZ. Add the article a for first mention nouns. Okay, here it'll again be simple because it's adding one word here. Add a word. The features will be first mention. The word will be a. The word's tag will be article. Gloss. Gloss can be first mention or indefinite article or anything you want. Okay. Now as soon as we do this, now we're adding a word. So we're going to get a message here. You've just entered a new constituent into noun phrases called article. Do you want to edit your first noun phrase structure rule? Let's say yes. So there it is at the top, and it includes the word a. Let's drag this down, and we'll put it right there, before adjectives, before the noun, like a big book or something like that. So now when we generate this verse, a person walked. Let's show one more example. Let's change this from an infix to a circumfix. So now there are two. There's, let's say, pre for prefix and ed. Ed is the suffix, and both of these combined are the past tense morpheme. And now we'll generate a person pre-walked. If we say show morphemes, we see our circumfix pre with the suffix ed. So that's how you use simple spellout rules here in the synthesizing grammar. I don't recommend any of these. You'll want to do the vast majority of this work with phrase builder rules. But one note here. For something like, for example, the plural form of nouns. In English we have many suppletive forms. We have man and men. Leaf and leaves, fish and fish. there are many suppletive forms. So we should do those over in the lexicon. So we'll have a singular form, which is probably the stem, and then a plural form and multiple rules building the plural form, like adding s. Some of them will just be suppletive, like man and men. And then here in the synthesizing grammar, we would use a form selection rule, and we would select the plural form. But if your language is very regular, in other words, there are no suppletive forms, then you don't need to define a form in the lexicon. For example, if all of your nouns, if the plural form is always the stem plus s, then you don't need to define a form in the lexicon. You could do that here in the synthesizing grammar. If there's no suppletion, if for every noun you just add the morpheme s, then I would recommend doing it here in the grammar. But if there are any irregularities, any suppletive forms, then you should probably do that over in the lexicon.